The Montana House of Representatives has voted to censure the state's first openly transgender legislator, Representative Zooey Zephyr. And this all comes after Representative Zephyr spoke out against a bill that would ban gender-affirming care for transgender youth.
And here to discuss this is Montana State Representative Zooey Zephyr. Thank you so much for being with us. The House voted along party lines to ban you from entering the House floor for the remainder of the 90-day session. Were you surprised that this happened?
You know, given the fact that the Republicans used sort of an unequal and undemocratic application of decorum to silence me and the constituents who elected me in the legislature, I'm not surprised that they doubled down on that effort when my constituents showed up and demanded that their representatives' voice be heard. So it's a disappointing and undemocratic decision, but I'm not surprised they took it.
Representative, you're barred from participating on the floor, but still allowed to vote remotely. There was actually a picture of you working outside of the chamber. How will this impact you moving forward?
It's important to note that from the moment the speaker disallowed me to speak, and now every bill we hear in the House of Representatives, and we have big bills, budget bills, the state's budget bills, housing bills. Every bill that goes forward will have 11,000 voices of my constituents who are not represented in that debate. But what I'm trying to do is get as close as I can to the floor to make sure that I can be in communication with legislators so that despite this undemocratic decision, I can try to get their voice heard as best I can.
This all comes after you told House Republicans they would have, quote, blood on their hands if they voted to ban gender-affirming care for transgender youth. So talk to us about what that bill is all about.
So that bill took away gender-affirming care for trans youth. And what that means is from a young age, things like social transitioning were disallowed or not allowed to be advocated for with state grounds. And that's something like allowing someone to cut their hair or grow it out or use a different name or pronoun. It blocked puberty blockers. And again, these are medications that are decided by patients, parents, endocrinologists, therapists, along with best practices of every major medical association. And I see the way in which these bills bring harm, because I see how trans youth are impacted by this and the risks of suicide that go up when these bills pass.
And Representative, we are seeing bans on gender-affirming care for kids popping up all across the country. However, we don't see this type of action or hear this type of debate when you talk about, cosmetic surgeries for children. Why do you think that is that way?
And again, when we talk about the unequal application of democracy, when we look at the speaker's decision to silence me and my constituents, we're also seeing an unequal application of the law here. They're looking specifically to target trans youth. They're not concerned about a procedure. They're concerned about trans youth in particular. And we've seen that in the gender-affirming care bans. And we've also seen it in bans that specifically say it's allowable for students to bully someone for a name, using a name or pronoun different than one they were assigned at birth. These are narrowly crafted bills designed to target marginalized communities.
So I guess the question is, what comes next for you?
You know, I was elected by my constituents to be their voice in the House of Representatives. And I walked in yesterday with my head held high, ready to do that work. And I am looking right now to do everything in my power to make sure that the people who elected me to represent them have their voices heard, that we can get democracy to function. And I'm doing all I can to make sure that happens.
And Representative, your censure is the latest in a series of disciplinary actions taken against elected officials, especially when you think about what happened in Tennessee. What do you think about this trend here?
So I think what you're seeing is as marginalized communities are rising up against policies that get our communities killed, whether that's myself or Representative Maury Turner in Oklahoma speaking about gender-affirming care, whether that's young Black men in Tennessee speaking about gun violence and the impacts that has on their community. When these groups are rising up, people in power, it's not enough for them to get the bills passed. They're demanding our silence. And it's important to note that this is a long history of this. You know, Montana's first censure expulsion was a century ago for someone standing up against someone bribing their way into Congress. So we have a long history of fighting back against these undemocratic policies, and we'll continue to do so.
Montana State Representative Zooey Zephyr, thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.